Hi, I'm Six String Steve. Welcome to episode 2 of the UtahBMX.com video podcast. Today we're going to be talking about tips and tricks for using your GoPro to film your BMX races and jumps and skate parks and all that. We've been noticing a lot more kids showing up with these GoPros. They get them for Christmas, birthday presents, or maybe you finally scraped enough pennies together to get one for yourself. Congratulations, these are fantastic little cameras. Today's podcast will focus only on GoPros, but there are a lot of other great alternatives to wearable HD video cameras that you can take with you. When you buy a new GoPro, it does not come with a memory card. You need a memory card or SD card to capture all the video that you're recording. Because GoPros capture in such high definition, they're sending a ton of data to your memory card all the time. Because of that, we need to get the best types of memory cards available. GoPro recommends a class 4 or higher, and I recommend a class 10 because that's kind of the standard now and they're real easy to find. The higher the class rating, the more data it can record at once. There are a few different sizes of memory cards as well. I use a 32 gigabyte memory card, but that's way overkill. A 32 gig card will get you 4.5 hours roughly of filming. So a 16 gig will get you about 2.25, so 2 hours and 15 minutes. And since the battery life on a GoPro is only about 2.5 hours, a 16 gig card should be just fine for most people, unless you're going to be out there all day and you're going to charge it throughout the day and you don't have a computer to download your movies to. So starting out, a few tricks. Your GoPro comes with the waterproof camera housing. So there are two back doors to your camera housing. One back door is completely sealed and one has little holes in it, and I'll explain why. So first off, if you're going to be recording in a wet environment where it's raining or snowy or muddy, I recommend using the waterproof back door. That way nothing will touch your camera. Now, if you want to record some audio with it, what you want to use is the open back door housing, or the housing, just the back door with your housing, because the way the microphone is positioned, these extra holes allow the microphone to get better sound. It'll sound pretty muffled if you're using the waterproof housing. So I always use the open back door housing unless it's wet outside. One more thing, when you get your new GoPro, don't throw away the plastic box that it comes in, because on the base of that box is a little mount that is useful later down the road, and we'll show you when you can use that, so don't throw this away. Now let's talk about image resolution. The resolution of your image is how clear the picture is and how much data it's recording. The highest resolution will use the most memory, and the lowest resolution will use the least memory. My recommended settings for BMX on an HD Hero 1080p, so the Hero 1 is what I call it, is the R4 setting. That's 960p, and that's the tallest video that it can record. What's nice about that is when you're following people and they're jumping over jumps, if you don't use that setting, they often jump out of the screen and you can't see them. So the R4 setting takes the tallest video. So that's what I recommend on the Hero 1. On the Hero 2, I recommend the 1080p section on the FOV wide setting. FOV stands for field of view, and the wide setting captures the most in that setting on the Hero 2. The next feature I'd like to talk about is the one button on feature with your GoPro. Read your manual to learn how to set this up because it's a little bit different between the different GoPro models. But what it allows you to do is hold down just one button and then it begins recording immediately. If you don't have the one button on feature, you're going to have to turn the power on and wait for it to power up, and then you're going to have to hold the shutter button down until it beeps to start recording. You've seen a lot of videos where they start out with someone saying, "Is my red light blinking?" Well, that's because they don't have the one button on mode. With the one button on, you hold it down, when you hear the beeps, you know it's recording and you don't have to worry about anything else. That's especially helpful when you're getting in the gate and you forgot to turn it on. You're going to turn it on real quick and you don't want to have to worry about any of that stuff.
And then when it's blinking red, we're filming. There we go.
One of my favorite things about GoPros are the mounting system. It's a great mounting system, and GoPros are so widespread now that it's really easy to find mounts. You can find mounts at Best Buy, Pictureline, bike, ski, skate shops, all over the place. It's pretty easy to find mounts. So first off, you need to secure your housing to the mount. To do that, we've got two different size screws here, mounting screws. The longer one is what you want to use here. The reason is that the shorter screw, if you try and insert it in here, it hits the body of the camera when you're trying to tighten it down, and it doesn't allow you to fully tighten it. So the longer screw puts the thumb part out here away from the body of the camera. Next up, each of these mounts has a little nut on the other side that the screw threads into. These nuts are just pressed in. It's real easy for these nuts to just fall out and for you to lose them, so I recommend putting a dab of super glue on there to keep them from falling out. Next, you don't really want to over tighten these thumb screws. Every time I loan my GoPro out to somebody or rent it, it comes back and these screws are just death grip tightened. They don't need to be that tight. They hold really, really well. They should just be finger snug, nothing crazy. And finally, my favorite addition to the mounts is called this pivot arm assembly. And what it allows you to do when it's mounted is to pivot your camera all sorts of different angles. So then if I'm not quite where I want to be, I can you know, tweak it a little sideways or bend it back or something like that. The pivot arm assembly comes with the grab bag of mounts, and it also comes with the seat post or handlebar mount that GoPro sells. I highly recommend that mount. Alright, let's talk a little bit more about mounts. My favorite mount, and probably my most used mount, is my helmet mount. So first of all, there are two types of sticky adhesive mounts that GoPros come with usually. One is flat for flat surfaces, and one is curved for a slightly curved surface like a helmet. Ironically, the flat one has rounded edges and the curved one has straight edges, but you can also tell by looking at it sideways if it's curved or not. So, what you want to do when you're placing your helmet mount for the first time is you want to put your visor all the way up. Because most kids forget to do that and put their mount too far forward and their visor hits their mount and they're not able to, and it's the way they don't like it when they're riding. So put your visor all the way back up and then put your sticky mount as close to that visor as possible in its utmost position. You want to clean off the surface of your helmet before you do that because dirt and stuff's going to make it a little bit harder to stick. Now with your mount there, you're able to mount your GoPro straight to the sticky mount. Now what most people end up doing is just putting their angle of their camera straight. Now, that's a problem because when we ride BMX, we ride with our head down a little bit. So the angle you want to be at is about right there. I know it looks goofy, and you just got to trust me on this. Put it at that angle. I use a silver Sharpie to mark on my helmet mount that angle that I love. Put it at that angle and start riding that way. Here's a few examples of helmet mount shots. You'll notice that when you use the helmet mount, you can't see yourself on video. So helmet mounts are really best when you're following the subject of the video. So if you want to show off your great skills, all that a helmet mount is going to show you is what's in front of you when you're riding. It's not going to show if you jumped it, if you manualed it, if you rolled it. It's really hard to tell from the helmet mount. So what I recommend is buying your buddies a helmet mount and convincing them to follow you on the track. Here's an example of someone following. Another cool feature about the helmet mount is you can run it backwards and film people behind you. I haven't found a good way to do this yet without it looking real bumpy and real shaky, but it's another creative way to use that mount. Remember how I told you not to throw away this little clip that your camera came with? It's real handy for putting on a table when you want to film an interview or put it on another flat surface. It's a great starting platform. A lot of people also cut it up and mount it as a chest mount somehow, or hard epoxy it to some sort of piece of wood or something that they want to use. So don't throw that away, that can be useful. My next most used mount is the seat post handlebar mount from GoPro. This mount's $20 and it mounts on round tubes from 0.75 to 1.4 inches in diameter. So you're able to put it to your seat post, your chain stay, your seat stay, your handlebars, a lot of different places to position it on your bike. Here's a few examples of the seat post handlebar mount on my chain stay. Now, a lot of you have seen me running around with my GoPro on a big old PVC pole. The seat post clamp is a great way to secure your GoPro to the pole. But I've also got another option that I've created where I drilled a hole in a piece of PVC pipe and simply ran a bolt through to hold one of my mounts on. This is one of my most used mounts because I put it on a little quick release here so I can just pop it on and off of different size PVCs. Now when the PVC is over 6 feet long, the camera starts getting really shaky. It's really too wobbly. But it's great for hanging it out in places you can't reach, or shooting from a really high angle if you want to see from above what it looks like, or getting really far down low. I highly recommend you get some sort of way to attach your GoPro to a piece of PVC. This mount that I'm wearing here is called the Chesty. I do not recommend this mount for BMX. Unfortunately, a lot of people get it thinking it'll be a great way to swap it between riders and it'll really show the point of view. But we got to remember our eyes do not stick out of our chest or our stomach, and all we're gonna see is handlebar movement, and it's really hard to tell what's in front of you on the track, hard to tell what you're doing on the bike. So here's a couple videos from the chest mount. Now, one of the big advantages of the chest mount is you don't have to affix a permanent sticky mount to someone's helmet, and anyone can wear it. I love wearing the Chesty mount for other sports, but BMX, it just doesn't look good for me. Another great mount that I use quite often is the tripod mount. This allows you to mount your GoPro to any traditional tripod. Now that we know the good settings and mounts and positions to record with your GoPro, it's time to start thinking about your final video before you even start recording. First of all, plan your shot. Plan each shot. Plan what the whole video is going to look like in the end. Are you going to start at the beginning or start at the end? Where are you going to be slow motion, etc.? Try and tell a story as you create your video. Try and keep it interesting for the viewer instead of just a whole bunch of choppy shots of you trying the same thing over and over and over. Another tip is to change your angle of view, your point of view when you're shooting, because if everyone sees the same exact shot from the same part of the jump every single time, it's going to get boring. What you want to do is switch it up. Have someone following you with a helmet, then have someone follow you with the seat post clamp, and then have somebody follow you with the big white PVC pole following you that way. The more you can change up your shot, the more interesting your video will be to other people. And finally, if you're editing with music, this is a little bit tricky, but well worth the effect. When you're editing, make things happen on the beat of the music. So listen to the drums when people land or take off or crash, or when something changes, try and do it to the beat. And your final tip to save you hours of editing time is only turn on your GoPro when you're ready to film something. At first I made the mistake of just leaving it on for 3 hours and capturing everything I saw. Well, that turned into a 12-hour edit because I had to go through and cut out all the pieces that weren't relevant. To save time, try and focus on planning your shot, turn on your GoPro when you want to record that shot, and then turn it off after that shot, and it will save you a lot of time in the end. I hope these tips and tricks have given you a good starting point to start your videos. Remember, there's no right or wrong. You can be as creative as you want and break all the rules and have fun with your GoPro. We look forward to seeing your video clips and post comments and questions below in the YouTube link. Thanks.
It's a hollow chest on a solemn quest to bring a guest into your arms. Underworld of sound, underworld of sound.
Or scraped enough. Let's redo that. A lot of kids lately have been getting... Hello and welcome to the second episode of the BY... Today we're going to be talking about GoPros and some tips and Hi, I'm Six Strings. A lot of kids this Christmas season are showing up with... let's do that new part over. This SD card, recommended that you get a class 4 or 6 or better. I recommend a class 10, and the class refers to that the one button on feature allows you to just hold down one button camera to a round tube. To learn trial and error what works well and what doesn't well. Have someone following you with a head so we can see your tips and tricks.
Alright? Yep.